Sup, welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me we have some more RPG horror stories. My back finally feels a lot better. I unfortunately have something what's called double jointed back, which means it's more likely to get injured just for whatever reason. Wake up on the wrong side of the bed, twist my back in a weird way. I don't know, man. I've been dealing with back issues for a very long time. While they aren't fun to deal with, I'm kind of used to them by this point, so most of the time I just need a few days break and then things are back to full swing after I do a lot of stretching. Anyway, let's get to some RPG horror stories for today. Anime Harem LFG post from hell. I would typically feel bad about posting this, and then again the DM has pinged me upwards of 20 times over the course of a week or two, so this is the worst LFG I've ever seen. GM me. System. I normally do freeform, however I'm willing to try D&D in other system if I have someone help with the system. Number of players, no set amount. Time. I'm free normally from 8 AM to 1 AM, anywhere between that amount of time, etc. I can be free to host something. Method. Voice with visuals. Description. 1. This game will be over voice, not text. 2. I'm vetting players for some time, so we'll be doing one-on-one sessions. What I'm looking for is interest and able to go with the flow constancy. 3. All players will either be females or femboy. I see. So the title for this story makes total sense now. This DM is trying to fill up a harem of females and femboys, so inclusive. This is probably just posted because the player just mad that the DM like pinged them a bunch of times, so they're just frustrated with the whole thing, so they like say, screw it, I don't care, look at this ridiculousness and read it for yourselves. But I find it kind of fun. I mean, obviously I find it funny, the whole premise, how it's written so far is main character, harem protagonist, you gotta be part of my harem. I'm only allowing players, not characters, but players to be females and femboys. But you know what? As much as funny as it is and as ridiculous as the title is, so far, I mean, I'm pretty sure it gets more ridiculous as we're gonna go on, at least the DM is being very honest about what they want to do. They're putting it out ahead of time and letting people know what their intention is, not surprising people with some sort of a gotcha. But typically females and be paired up by male characters, as you'll be on receiving end of bedroom play. What does it mean by receiving end of bedroom play? You gotta be the sub, basically. You gotta be the bottom, so you gotta make sure you're female, femboy, and you're the bottom because the DM is the top, I guess. I don't know. Or it's not gonna be like a harem, but everybody's gonna be paired by male characters. What if like two femboys want to be paired up together? Can they do that? Are they allowed to do that? Canon characters will be played and characters will be chosen from the world. These being anime, VTuber, and pop culture characters that work for the setting and story being told. Oh, look at that. More inclusivity. The DM is inclusive to VTubers. We need more VTuber representation in our D&D games or roleplay games, or roleplay harem games. Let's keep going. I have ideas on what games I'll run, but I prefer to talk that out. Being respectful and understanding is a must. No rules, lawyers, please. Keep an open mind. We typically focus on RP over this system. You'll be playing multiple characters and you'll be the harem of an NPC. Never mind, there's no pairing. I thought it's gonna be like everybody's gonna be paired to like a couple. Never mind, I take it back. You're part of a harem. Jesus Christ. I mean, like I said, at least they're being honest and upfront with what they're trying to do. We'll discuss setting and such over voice. I mainly do stuff revolving around canon setting, but we can see. Level of sexual content. Probably next to none. It's just a one-shot. Gotta focus on the action. Okay, that's a surprise. I thought there'd be a lot of sexual stuff going on there, but basically saying next to none, that's interesting. Preferred characters, expected kinks, multiple partners, romance, secret love, and giving. Never mind. I guess you are expected to follow some sort of a kink, so no sexual stuff, but you gotta be kinky. To apply, just DM me or whatever, but don't reply here. Not kink shaming. If you're into harems, that's fine. Just feel so annoyed to be ping spammed by a major red flag hyper-specific harem fetish game. It's been up for weeks, and the DM is pinging multiple times a day. Okay, yeah, if the DM is pinging everybody on the server multiple times a day, or you specifically, you gotta turn off the pings, or you gotta just block them. Here's something you could do on Discord, right? You just go to the user account and click block, and then you won't see those stuff. It will still pop up messages whenever they post anything, but at least you won't be pinged, and you won't get like a little annoying alert saying, oh, look at the announcements, ping here. Otherwise, I'll talk to the Discord mods for the server and ask them if there's something that can be done. Maybe they can ask the person to stop pinging. You can only ping so many times, but I mean, if people ain't joining, people ain't joining. Actually, where would you go to like look for like a kinky or specific fetish type game? You don't have to self-report or anything, but if I, Morrow, hypothetically wanted to look for a fetish kind of game, where would one look? Just asking for a friend. Anyway, let's get to the next RPG horror story for today. Wizard has a meltdown over my combat performance. It's a rare thing that I get to be a player in a game, but when I get a chance once in a blue moon, I usually jump on the chance. Let's meet the cast. DM, chill dude with a cool homebrew world and extensive house rules. Me, playing a sorcerer fighter multi-class. Wizard, the problem. The others who are not important to this story but consist of barbarian, rogue, and monk. I'm the kind of guy who likes to roll for stats, and the DM advocates for it at the table, so I roll up a sorcerer fighter. My stats were okay, decent strength, dexterity, charisma, albeit with an abysmal con of 7. Ooh. I was a bit of glass cannon. This was later rectified with a magic girdle that increased my con to 16. Nice. I wanted to roleplay my stats, so I made my character similar to the literary character Elric of Melnibone. Probably mispronounce it. A sickly, weak albino who needed drugs and elixirs to keep going in day-to-day life. While we were making our characters, I took a look at the spell selection, which the DM had cataloged to fit with his world and lore. Wizard asked about some spells that weren't on there, but the DM told him they didn't really fit with what he was trying to do. Wizard grumbled since he wanted to take silvery barbs, but went along with it. I wanted to build my character to be a real spellblade kind of guy, so I selected spells that reflected that. The important spells here are Inflict Wounds, part of my homebrew undead bloodline, and True Strike. The DM had homebrewed it as a first level spell, giving him plus 10 to hit, and ignoring disadvantage, but still needed an action to cast. Wizard thought my choice of spells was crap, but I ignored them. Wow, somebody actually went out the way to try to fix True Strike? There are different ways I've seen people try to fix True Strike, but this is a really creative one. I kinda like it. Make it an actual important spell instead of just get advantage for next turn. Yeah, I mean, it's a leveled spell, so you gotta, spend a spell slot or a spell point, whatever system you use, but that's a cool way to fix it. The game starts. We meet in a temple where a cleric tells us that a beast of chaos had been rampaging through the lands for weeks now, and they need someone to lay it low. We agree, go after it, and so far so Gucci. We get into combat against some winged apes and use a spell slot to cast True Strike. Next round, decimate an ape with a surefire hit of Inflict Wounds. Wizard is doing okay, but he's annoyed that his spells aren't hitting as much as he'd like. Seeing me do well on the front lines despite my comparatively low HP was also a point of annoyance to him, and the fact that my character needed to shop for alchemical components to make his magic drugs before we left. I did my best to be chill with Wizard, but he was becoming more passive-aggressive by the minute, and it was starting to affect me too. Sounds like the Wizard was getting a little bit upset over the whole thing, and I mean, yeah, I know it sucks when sometimes spells don't hit. The dice gods are just sometimes not in your favor. I've been there all too much. Whenever you roll Eldritch Blast as a warlock and it misses every single time, it does nothing you can do. Because like your main action's used, I don't have a bonus action that's worthwhile using. I just go Eldritch Blast. I missed? Fuck. I end my turn, and that's it. And I have to wait next round to use Eldritch Blast again. We encounter the beast. A fight ensues. I'm critting thanks to champion subclass. Barbarian is having a great time being thrashed around by it. Rogue and Monk keep their distance, all is well. Wizard makes a few comments about me going down in a second, but I keep avoiding hits thanks to a good amount of AC, which Wizard is also annoyed by. Then I hit it with another True Strike empowered Inflict Wounds, Action Surge with a Bastard Sword, Homebrew, Better Longsword, and a crit for like 50 damage and taking the kill. Are you critting with a Bastard Sword itself or Inflict Wounds? Inflict Wounds, I could see how the damage could be like that, but if a Bastard Sword lets you make 50 damage for a crit, what kind of a homebrew is that? See, when it comes to weapons, you gotta be very careful, especially like regular melee weapons or regular range weapons. If it's homebrew to just be like blank but better, then of course people are gonna take the blank but better. There gotta be some sort of like restriction to it or like a reason why it exists, but like maybe you have to have a specific specific type of strength or whatever, I don't know. Homebrew can be very finicky, and I mean, it really depends on you guys' level. If you guys are the right level and stuff, then I guess it makes sense for you to do that much damage. But 50 with a single weapon as a crit? Christ. Wizard flips, yelling about my superb performance despite having dismal HP and what he considers a crappy spell selection. Barbarian tries to calm Wizard down, as does the DM, but he's adamant that I need to go, or he will, because he will never play with some F-word gish bitch. So Wizard went, we ended up playing for a couple of weeks, and wrapped up the adventure in a satisfying way. Overall, a mild horror story, but still horrible for that first session. Being rude in general, it's not a good look. It really ain't a good look. But I mean, maybe there was a reason for it. Maybe the balance of the homebrew was a little bit too much. Maybe that bastard sword was really imbalanced. I mean, I'd like to see the stats and stuff. All I can really do is Google things like from D&D Wiki. It could be that maybe you didn't do anything wrong, is just for whatever reason, a lot of the homebrew stuff that you had maybe made your character way more powerful. Maybe the game was leaning more towards martial characters rather than anything. Or it could just be bad RNG and bad luck and the wizard was salty. It's really hard to tell. Though the one red flag I do have regarding the game itself is a bastard sword dealing 50 critical hit damage. I don't know any melee weapon that could do 50 critical hit damage. I think a greatsword in one single swing, how much damage can a greatsword even do? 29 damage on a greatsword for a crit with max dice. If your bastard sword is doing 50, then unless you just combine the damage of inflict wounds and bastard sword together and it's sort of like combined together, it's 50, then that's fine. But if a single weapon strike crit does 50 damage, yeah, I could see how somebody could be salty. Does it justify Wizards' complaints and being rude and stuff? No, not at all. Their animosity and their poor attitude does not justify that. But I do feel like maybe they were upset less at you and more about the unbalanced homebrew. But that's just a guess. Either way, let's get to the next RPG horror story for today. Orc-Hating Dwarf kicks my character out of the party after reincarnating as Half-Orc. This was my very first time playing Dungeons & Dragons. I'd known for it for a long time, but I'd never found a group that I liked. So I was really excited to play, finally, under a DM who had been DMing for like 30 years, who had started back in AD&D. We're playing 3.5, and I did pretty well for a human druid. I'm assuming that's what it says. Humans are especially weak in 3.5, but I don't care. I like my character. Cora the Druid. This campaign was returned to the Temple of Elemental Evil, and when I started, the Dwarf, as he was called, because the player was always playing Dwarf, the player was short, stocky, muscular, and a little hard-headed, the Dwarf wasn't in my first 2 sessions, because he was crafting. When I finally did meet him, his first line was like, "Well, just do as I say and we'll get along." Immediately rubbed me the wrong way, as he had made himself the de facto party leader and campaign protagonist. In our first dungeon, my character died after getting paralyzed by a Grell. The players liked me, and using the money I had, about 500 gold, plus some donations, that paid for Reincarnate. I was apprehensive but excited. I rolled Half-Orc. At first, I didn't like it, but I got over it because I got a bunch of upgrades. Because of the rules of Reincarnate, my intelligence and charisma didn't lower, but my strength increased, and I got dark vision. An upgrade. Honestly, it's not that often to see people play as human, but I do like the idea of playing as human. Not only are you the underdog of the entire D&D world, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's some other ones that are probably worse than human, like Grung. But come back to the humans. I know humans are the boring selection in every RPG, MMO, and even TTRPG, but I think that's kind of cool with humans. Now, I'm not talking about like variant humans. Variant humans are cool, obviously. They get a feat from the very beginning. But playing standard human in D&D, I mean, you're playing the underdog and you're sort of like a clean slate, clean open slate. You don't have any perks, you just gotta deal with what you got. But you do get a +1 and everything, so I mean, that's a nice little buffer. Kinda like that. But when you discover that other races, such as tieflings and half-orcs, have things like dark vision, it's like, oh, I can't go back. Dark vision is too good. Dark vision is kinda cool, honestly. Dark vision is really cool. Though, I would like to play something that doesn't have dark vision, just because it seems like a really cool trait to have, and it gives you a little bit more of that thinking where you gotta really think about, like, do you have the supplies? Are you carrying everything with you? Do you have a hooded lantern? And can you use the hooded lantern in intricate ways? It's just, it adds a little bit of caveat to your experience. Anyway, sorry, I'm just rambling. Let's get back to the story. Then the dwarf took issue. His character's backstory is that his village was raided by orcs, and he hated orcs. He didn't want to adventure with me. The DM and I both tried to explain that I wasn't actually an orc, it was just a reincarnate, and I could eventually return to my original form with a wish spell. Dwarf didn't care. His character's animosity was so great that he wouldn't adventure with me. I get like your character doesn't like orcs, but I mean, as a player, you have to realize that as a group, as players are a unit. You gotta work together. If you start making an argument that you can't adventure with somebody because now they're suddenly half-orc because of Reincarnate, they're half-orc in appearance and stats, and that's about it, and some of the other perks they have. That's still the same person that you've adventured with. I'm not even talking about the character, I'm talking about the player. Do they really want to try to create some sort of a problem with this in order to hinder the story in some way or whatever? It's just a really weird hill to die on, you know? Your character is just gonna have to deal with it, or use that as a narrative plot point to kind of have them become rivals and like hated, or your dwarf hates the character and then eventually they become friends or something, or they learn to become comrades and dwarf becomes less racist. I don't know. It sounds like a cool plot point. So much so that he decided he wasn't going to help to pay for my reincarnate in the first place. The DM coddled him in that he allowed him and the party to have their money back, including what they've looted off me, and retconned my reincarnate so that it never happened, instead of just allowing me to re-roll. And then all got the money and I had to make a new character. That's a really stupid ruling. One player is unhappy that you rerolled to half-orc, so the DM, instead of finding reasonable, saying it's part of the reincarnate, that's the whole bit, they reincarnate into whatever they rolled. That just canon now. They just say, nope, backsies, we just take the loot, keep the loot, and the character has to reroll a brand new character. Seriously? What a crappy way to ruin someone's experience, like getting into D&D for the first time. All because the one dwarf can't budge on the half-orc. As this was my very first experience, it was a sour note to start on. Dwarf didn't change his attitude, and DM played favorites with him many times, most notably when the party almost experienced a TPK, and Morrow saved Dwarf, who was level 4, from dying. DM got mad at my epic eye roll when this happened. Then Morrow, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it, resurrected Dwarf, and Dwarf is a best friend, who was a chaotic evil rogue, but left everyone else dead. I vowed to never play favorites when I DM'd. After I took over DMing a few years later, it didn't take long for Dwarf to quit. He played again eventually and matured over time, so it's good to see that everyone can learn. He still always played a Dwarf. Some things never change. It sounds like things got better at the end of the day, but yeah, like for real, this just feels like the DM was just playing favorites for the sake of playing favorites. Maybe they're a buddy of theirs, or maybe they like playing with them specifically. It's really stupid to prioritize one single player over anybody. I'm under the notion that even if you have like a player that's within your game that's a significant other, your favorite person ever, your best friend or whatever, you could still play DM and not play favorites. And to be honest, it's really easy not to play favorites. Don't give the player a special advantage. Don't give them a leeway in the rules. If you're a DM and you have a group of players, you owe to the players to have everybody play on an equal playing field. Otherwise, it just doesn't seem fun. It seems very unfair to everybody at the table. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.